Welcome to episode 3 of Behind the Visual, a podcast that interviews the people responsible for putting together and creating the pictures and videos you see in your world every day. Today, our guest is going to be Craig Arnett, and Craig is the Senior Graphic Designer and Art Director for Lowe's Home Improvement. So, all right. Thanks, Craig.
Hey, how's it going?
This, man. Good. So, first of all, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into all this, how you got into graphic design, art direction, like what led you to where you are today?
Well, initially I attended Cal State Long Beach and went through their graphic visual communication program with an emphasis on graphic design. Originally, honestly, I didn't know what I was going to do. Before that, I went to community college and then started taking art classes, and then pretty much my path led me to Cal State Long Beach, and come to find out they had one of the top 10 graphic design schools in the United States. So I was stoked about that, and then went through the program, graduated, and senior show. We had a senior show, and I had a creative director walk up to me, and we started talking. And I'm totally into cars, so they were ramping up a pilot office in Irvine, California. And then basically they were opening up this office, and we're going to do car brochures. So for Lincoln and Mercury, and totally interested. So right out of college, I jumped right into that, working for Landor and Associates, and worked at that office for 3.5 years. And then soon after that, Landor is also owned by PPG, or IPG, and they also own Y&R. So I actually went over to Y&R working on Jaguar, Land Rover, and then so I was working on those accounts, and then I transitioned. I actually applied for a job with Deutsch LA. So interviewed there. I got the gig over there, and then I stepped in working on the Mitsubishi account. And then it was crazy. First day, show up, dressed a little bit, for an agency, dressed up because it's my first day. And then I end up on location with a rally car coming around the corner, throwing dirt all over me. It was pretty crazy. But I'm like, all right, this is cool.
That's a great first day.
Yeah, I can do this, right? And so I was on location for a couple of weeks doing that. And then after that, I worked on the Mitsubishi account for about a year. And because of the whole if you don't have an account, you don't have a job kind of thing. So we lost the Mitsubishi account, and then they wanted to keep me on, but they couldn't. So I came back in as freelancer for about a year, permalancer, we like to call it, right?
Yeah.
So, it's a pretty good gig. So I was working on DirecTV, NFL Sunday Ticket, doing direct mail pieces, and then between that, I went over and I worked for Chiat a little bit, working on the Infinity account, doing direct mail for them. And then came back to Deutsch, and I worked on the Saturn account for 3.5 years.
Wow.
Doing car brochures again. So that was my thing. And then after that, it was like, I think everything just bottomed out. The market bottomed out. We lost the Saturn account because GM abolished Saturn. They got rid of Saturn. So after that, I didn't know what was going down. We were pitching work at Deutsch left and right, which was cool, trying to pick up some new accounts. And that didn't happen. And then a girl I worked with at Landor originally, right out of college, came to Charlotte, North Carolina, and she was trying to get a gig over at Lowe's. And then so she contacted me. She knew I was out of work and networking, and she said, hey, there's a gig over at Lowe's. What do you think about it? So my wife's like, you need to apply for that job. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't want to move out of California. So, but I applied for it, and eventually they called me back, and that's where I am today. But, in hindsight, it's like as soon as I got here to North Carolina, Deutsche picked up the Volkswagen account, and I'm so I'm like,
well, of course they did.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh man. And they won some awards for the Darth Vader,
Oh yeah.
that.
So I remember that commercial. Yeah.
So that was cool. I mean, networking with everybody. I mean, it was hard coming out here because my networking out here is slim to none. And then I'm slowly building it back up. But, when we're in California, when I was there, everybody you graduated with, you could say, hey man, I'm out of work, looking for a gig, and, stuff pops up left and right. And out here, it's pretty, Yeah,
there's not nearly as much going on.
Exactly.
Yeah, damn, man. So what's the big difference between, saying, working in-house at Lowe's and working for an agency?
And I mean, I'm getting older now, so I mean, everybody. I went to go work at Chiat doing Infinity work, and sat down with HR, and they're saying, hey, my rate was higher than these kids coming out of school, and you're going, well, you pay, you get what you pay for, kind of thing, and I'm like. And they're like, no, we're not saying that. We're not saying we're going to pay you a lot less. And I'm like, good, because I'm not going to take that. So, I mean, it's hard for me going into working at an agency. Of course, you get to work on a wide variety of accounts. I mean, I worked on DirecTV and Coors Light and PlayStation and, at Deutsche. And then we also worked on Saturn, and then, of course, back in the day, Mitsubishi. But I mean, you have that opportunity to work on a wide variety of accounts and pitch new work, and you go constantly, which I love. But working in-house, you're specifically working on that one account. I mean, you get to work on different I want to say just different parts of the business, where you're doing like brochures or direct mail pieces or in-store signage or shooting photography with yourself. I think, you still have that opportunity to do different things, but it's all related back to the brand. You're that brand steward, and you want to make sure everything goes out the door, correctly. But the thing is, we're a big company, and there's a lot of people that work in different departments, which is strange to me, that it's hard for us to make sure everything's on brand. Sometimes you get stuff out there and you're like, where did that come from? Right. And we also have employees or associates in the stores making their own signs, and you're like, what are you doing?
Wow. Okay.
So, from that aspect, it's hard. You want everything to be spot on brand, and then it's kind of.
How does that work for you guys? Like, do you come up with, how's the creative pieces come about? Like, is this some kind of idea that somebody else has and they bring it to you and like, here's what we want to do, you execute this? Or is it something where you kind of come up with something, or how's that whole process work?
It depends what it is. I mean, based on, like, we do seasonal work, I want to say, like seasonal themes, they call it. Any holiday that comes through. Spring, Black Friday, we have 4th of July and Memorial Day, and so on, and we have Christmas. And the thing is, with that, we come up with specific themes, and then we execute style guides based on the brand, and then we make sure all the other departments have those style guides. But the thing is, it's open for interpretation, and sometimes you're like, what happened? So the thing is, it doesn't come back through us as a filter to say you can and cannot do that kind of thing. We try to put as much as we possibly can into the style guide. But if we had checks and balances, it seems like for us, we need to be like in the position where we do have a filter. It would be nice if we had a filter, because like you look at Apple stuff or Target, and it's spot on. It seems like, they create that artwork. It comes back through a creative director, and to make sure it goes through that filter and go, yeah, that's spot on.
Right.
execute kind of thing. And us, it's kind of random. You're like, I don't know, maybe because it's retail, but I look at other retailers and they're
Yeah.
spot on, right? Like,
So you guys, so as to say, like you and your department, do you guys come up with the idea for, say, like you said, Spring Black Friday or whatever? And
yeah,
do you come up with that idea and go, okay, here's what we want to do? Like the thing we did with the patio furniture and all that, was that an idea that you came up with and you got to execute on this one? Or was it something where, say, you would come up with an idea like that and you send it to the other department and go, here's basically what we want you guys to do, and then they execute on that?
not on that specific project.
Right, just in general. Like
That was outsourced to an agency that we utilize.
okay.
And so they came to the table with 3 to 5 different designs, and we say we want to go with this one, and then they blew that out, and then it was executed accordingly. But
Okay.
in certain instances, that happens based on our workload, because our department is only so big. We have to outsource specific things. We have a department, store environment. All they do is in-store signage. We do temporary signage that goes in the store and then out. It's not
Right.
permanent. They work on more permanent signage versus
Okay.
temporary signage. So, which is weird. And then we also have all the social aspects of, we have done like Pinterest posts and Facebook but there's also Lowe's.com too. So, I mean, we dabble in a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we take up some of that slack because they have so much work they have to do and say Lowe's.com.
Right. Yeah.
And we do temporary stuff that comes in and out. Like we do workshops we do kids workshops in the store, and now women's workshops. And we actually just have DIY. I don't know why we have specific categories. We should have workshops and kids workshops, but Depot has a women's workshop, so do we.
Okay. There you go. Is there a lot of back and forth on that? Like when you guys come up with the ideas, or is it just
based on what
does it?
Based on what we're doing, or based on somebody else doing?
Yeah, just in general. Say you come up with is there like, you come up with an idea and like, hey, we want to do this, or even the ad agency, is there come in and say the ad agency presents you something, do you guys look at and go, yeah, well, we need to tweak this, tweak that, and it goes back to them, they bring it back to you guys until you finally get it right?
Well, our internal creative is based on, like, look at it like we're a small agency working within Lowe's, and then we call them our clients within Lowe's. So
right.
The client would come to us and say, hey, we need to come up with a design for kids workshops, right? So we would blow out designs and present it to them as a client, and then they would give us feedback and we would make changes accordingly. But and we would do back and forth with them, but it also goes up as far as the CMO for visibility on what we're doing, even though that they're our client. They said, well, the CMO says we should do this versus that. So they have to take that under consideration as well. So there's some checks and balances in that respect, but for the most part, we're working back and forth with the client based on their categories. Say they oversee Lowe's Pro, or they oversee Lowe's Paint, or they have specific categories that they oversee, or Lowe's gift cards. We have, I've worked on the gift card program for years now. And initially it was how it was presented in the store. We kind of revamped that based on what I was seeing in the store. There was a lot of back and forth, and it had to be translated into Spanish as well. That's a huge problem for us. I mean, so
I've heard some mistakes being made, not by you guys, but like by other companies making mistakes on naming things and whatever, and they translate properly.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have a whole translations department, but the thing is, it's like if you design something, like we had to, I'm just recently designed some brochures for the Pro, and it was about a new rewards program that we launched. And before, we would do a brochure, and half of it was English and half was Spanish. And you're going, you can't do that. It's like, so now we do specific English and specific Spanish. I mean, it makes more sense and it flows better, and it's a better representation of the brand. And it's hard to do both English and Spanish with a lot of information. I mean, with the gift cards, we had gift card backers, and you say, happy birthday, you had to say that in Spanish as well. And every single gift card had some sort of saying on it, and we had to get it translated. So I said, well, let's just get rid of it. Just basically, there's no more, it doesn't say happy birthday on
right.
It. So you don't have to get it translated, and it just simplifies the whole process. So you had to think about it in how it's presented in the store. So it just simplifies.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah. All right. So I saw you're listed on AdBase Agency Access. Did you know that?
No.
So you're listed. It's a database for photographers, directors, artists, whatever, that they can look up people. So you look up Lowe's, and you're listed on there as one of the contact points. So you get yeah. Are you getting any promos from people, email promos or anything? It does say senior graphic designer. Yeah.
Photographers. Like at the agency, it was funny because the reps used to come in with portfolios, and you'd have, they'd throw some bagels on the table, and you'd have 20 portfolios, and we would just rifle through them and meet the reps, and we don't necessarily do that at the agency, at Lowe's.
Right.
And then we would have, everybody would get the same promos, and we'd rifle through them, and you go, nah, I don't think so. And you're like, maybe someday, right? And we'd have a big basket. We'd throw them all in there and keep all the promos. So, if you're looking for a photographer specifically, you could go through those promos and check them out, And it's just totally different at Lowe's. I mean, we do get promos, but not too many. And then I do get emails. I get yours, But, I mean, some of the emails that I get, you look at that specific photographer and you go, we would never utilize you, like a food photographer or specific, like product photographers. That it's very conceptual. You're like, we're retail, man. We would never utilize that. So I'm like, unsubscribe, But I mean, that specific photographer, man. I mean, if it's from a rep, you're going to get new stuff all the time,
Right.
So. I mean, I look at it, it's, it breaks up the monotony of the day, I'm going to check this out.
Do you bookmark them or anything like that to go back to the ones you like anyway? Or do you just kind of, is it one of those things where it's just something where, say you're working on a project and you get an email from a photographer or director or designer or whatever that you like, and they had just happened to send you one at that time, and, oh, cool, this works with what we're working on? Or do you go back and look at ones you've gotten before?
Yeah, I mean, we do. I have bookmarked photographers. Sometimes it's good to utilize photographers like yourself for mood boards. Going into the last shoot we had, I mean, I pulled a few shots and go, hey, this has a really good feeling based on where we're going with the brand, So that helps a lot to sell the concept, and utilize a specific photographer, When I started working at Lowe's, we utilized a photographer for, I did a lot of NASCAR stuff, right? So we'd utilize a photographer that wasn't a car photographer, and me coming from a car background going, we need to use a car photographer. So, but that was, in hindsight, you're like, well, are you photographing the driver or you're photographing the car? I'm like, well, the car is the jewel, and then, the driver complements it, kind of thing. So, so it was hard, but, it took me about a year to bring on a car photographer, because they were just not good. Right.
Right. Yeah.
But don't tell the art director that I work with that his stuff sucked. He knows it too. After the fact, it's like, you're right.
Yeah.
But I mean, we hired a car photographer, and
is that a dude from Iceland or someplace?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. He's in Switzerland now.
Okay. Someplace warmer.
Yeah, exactly. But for us as not an agency, it was hard for us based on cost, where that money's like, how do we pay the photographers kind of thing,
Yeah.
like insurance. I guess you had to have, I think we talked about this before, that you had to have over $1 million in insurance.
Yeah.
And
Lowe's wants like 2 million.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is crazy. I mean, for me personally, I didn't think
Yeah.
about stuff like that. And so a lot of photographers say, well, I don't have that much insurance, so we can't utilize you. And you're like,
Right.
so we had to go around that and hire Kruber to come in as that, go in between, and they carry the insurance and hire, say, you as a photographer. So that was hard for me to understand, going, well, let's just hire a good photographer,
Yeah.
So I think we figured that out from a cost standpoint, but I'm like, Kruber's taking X amount of money off the top. So if we could have some sort of process that, utilize, I don't know how we would pay you guys or the insurance or all that. I don't need to know about that stuff.
Yeah.
I just want to hire a good photographer,
How do you find the photographers do you look at the emails, websites? Do you look for reps?
All of the above.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I think for me, coming from California, it was hard because I mean, the talent out here was limited for North Carolina.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, you look for an art director job here, there's one or two. I mean, you look for them in California, and there's 40. So
Right.
it's same with photographers. We took when I was working on all the car counts, we moved all the photography to the West Coast. I mean, all the photographers were out of Detroit because that's where all the cars were. You're like, but you can't shoot them because there's 12 feet of snow, right? So it was funny. The first Saturn shoot I had, I flew to Detroit to a Saturn dealership. The client was there. First time I met the client. We have 5 cars out in the lot there at the dealership, and then it starts sleeting, and then snow on top of that. And I'm like, this is the first shoot I have with them. We had to cover each individual car up, and then pull the cover off, shoot it, right? Put the car cover back on, and just shoot individual cars, and then composite them all together. And then 2 cars weren't there. We had to CGI 2 cars.
Wow.
Yeah, they put a camera there and they did a spin 360 on it, and they shot individual cars to composite all together. It was crazy. And then the background, I think there was a Taco Bell in the background. And then there was no leaves on the trees, and we had to put leaves on the trees. And for the most part, it turned out pretty good.
Was this print or motion?
This was print.
Wow. God, man.
It was terrible. And then in hindsight, like after the fact, all the cars were done in CGI. So everything you see on commercials, that's all CGI stuff. You're like, I need a front 7/8 low angle, right? And and I need the car in red. They're like, all right. They had all the wireframe for all the cars. So we didn't have to do any individual shots anymore, like on a sweep.
Yeah, I'd heard that was going away slowly. That was because of that. And I did a NASCAR shoot a couple of years ago, and one of the guys at the office who was like, "Hey, look at these shots of these cars up here." And I was like, "Oh, those look great." He said, "Yeah, I did all those in computer. None of that's real." I was like, "Oh, wow." Yeah, that was impressive to see all that.
Yeah, we worked with a guy out of Canada, actually, and he everything was in CGI, and he would design the cars. He's got some phenomenal renderings, but and we came about him on a roundabout way too, and it was Jimmy Johnson's crew chief, Chad Knaus, because I had this kid who's like very enthusiastic and would like to design the cars. And he sent over a design to us, and I'm going, this is awesome. Let's use it. And then we're like,
wow.
we were too far out. It was for I think it was a Memorial Day car, stars and stripes on it. And I'm like, this is awesome. And like, we've already sent out the design. We can't use it till the following year, in which we finally did. And then we started utilizing him for specific designs for the cars. And he would come up with renderings, and they were all CGI. And we would show the CMO, and he's like, how come we've never had these renderings before? It like looks true to life, right? And we're like,
yeah,
because the technology's there now, which was crazy. So
yeah, that's very cool, man. Yeah, that's incredible. When you start looking at photographers, or even like this dude, a CGI guy or whatever, when you look at the website, do you want to open up to thumbnails and like large thumbnails so you can see that, or do you want to open up to like individual? So after, say, the landing page and you click on that, it takes you in. Would you rather see just a bunch of large thumbnails up so you can scan it quickly, or would you rather be able to just go through each individual shot and then hit the thumbnails if you want to?
I think the thumbnails are the key. And I think initially, I don't know, I don't remember how your website's set up, but I mean, for photographers, I mean, coming up the landing page, some beauty shots come up and you're like, okay, cool. And then it's categorized by lifestyle or automotive or whatever it is. And you click on that and it comes up with a bunch of thumbnails, and you're like, oh, that's, and you could start anywhere you want, or you could skim through it, and you're skimming through it and you go, oh, I get it. Right. And then you could go back to another category, and then you hit another category and you're like, oh, that's a kick-ass shot. And then, you click on it, and then you start cycling through full-size images. Right. And then you kind of get into it, and you get the overall feeling of how that shooter is,
Yeah.
Because every
kind of what I figured.
Every shooter's different, so.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I mean, that's the way mine opens up. You have the landing page with some pictures that run by, that you click on my logo, and it opens up to a bunch of thumbnails with a list over on the side for different categories.
Yeah. I think that's the best way. I mean, visually appealing, and it's easy to maneuver. Some websites you get on there and you're like, I'm done.
Yeah, I've seen a few of those myself.
You don't want that, you want people to,
I don't mind that as long as it's somebody else's website. I'm all good with that.
I hear
you. What's the toughest part of your job, you think?
Waking up in the morning.
Okay.
No, I'm just messing with you. I don't know. I have a lot of experience. So, I mean, for me, the run and gun, I'm used to that. I mean, I just go constantly, which I'm used to it. And then you get somebody new in, and they're just like, I don't get it. How do I keep up with the pace? But the thing is, like, being a creative, you need to let stuff just roll off of you. You're like, everybody has an opinion kind of thing. I like is not a reason for me. Explain yourself. So, I mean, I think that's the hardest thing for me, where it's like, I don't like that color. Well, explain to me why you don't like that color, because that's our Lowe's blue. You're like, just stuff like that. So like I said, everybody has an opinion, and if there's no reason behind it, then that's not the right reason, right? So
all right. Well, what's the favorite part of your job then?
I enjoy what I do, and no matter what it is, if from a brochure to a in-store signage or gift card or anything from that respect, you step back and you do the best possible job you can, conceptually and then visually, so I don't care what it is going into it. Just try to make it the best you possibly can, and I enjoy what I do on a daily basis. And then I enjoy working with team members and other people to come up with different concepts and designs for that, the best for that particular channel, because like I said, we have different channels, which is, you could do an outdoor board or a magazine ad or, in-store signage. So, and every channel is different, right? So you have to design accordingly, right? So.
Right. Okay. That works. All right. Last question. What is the strangest, most interesting thing that's happened to you on the job, or just some story that you love to tell?
I don't know. We get random things that come through, and a lot of it is upper management saying, hey, can you do this for me? But I did have a job, and it was we have it's like a rewards card, but it's not really a rewards card. And this was random that they had, and it's called Milo's, and you sign up.
Yeah, they don't push that very hard either. They go, "Do you have a Milo's card?" Nope. All right, move on.
Yeah,
yeah, they don't push it at all.
Well, the thing was, which is a pain point for me, because CMO was pushing to really pushing this Milo's card, because the competitor didn't have that card. Well, it's not necessarily a rewards card, and I've been there 10 years now, and initially it came on board about 10 or 8 years ago. And the thing was, it's not really a rewards card, right? The benefit behind it, like, you go into the grocery store, and if you bought, you get something off. You get right with your rewards card. Well, with Milo's, you don't get anything. Basically, if you scan your Milo's card, if you bring something back and you don't have the receipt, they just scan your Milo's card and they go, okay, because they know you purchased it, and they can put it right back on your credit card or whatever you paid, how you paid, and there's no benefit behind it, right? But when we were launching that, they had a local. It was like a carnival or something, and if you bought if you signed up for Milo's, you got a free taco. I did this billboard.
Really?
And it said, yeah. It said.
Did you get it there in store, or did you get a coupon for it from somewhere else?
No. They were at
they were making tacos right there.
The county fair, and they were at the fair, and they had a taco truck there. And if you signed up for Milo's, right there, they had a sign up table. You get a free taco. So I put Milo's plus taco. And then underneath it said, sign up for Milo's, get a free taco today. And still this day, I have a printout of that by my desk, and everybody laughs when they walk by, and I'm like, no, that was the thing. It made me do that. And I'm like, okay, no problem, I could do it.
Hey, it works.
A lot of people signed up that day.
I bet I'd sign up for a free taco. Why not?
Like, what?
Oh, well, that's it, man. That's the podcast. Thank you for being on here. Thank you to everybody who was watching or listening. If you like the podcast, be sure and subscribe, share it with your friends, tell everybody about it, like it, whatever else you can do to it. So maybe we can keep doing this thing a little bit longer. So
maybe we can get you a free taco.
Yes, exactly. Free tacos for everybody who subscribes. Thanks, man.
All right, cool.